Good morning, everyone. Another beautiful day in Boulder, Colorado. Can't beat it. Anyway, I'm here to say to you that we have these particular little flyers in the pews in front of you. If you want to get in touch with what's going on here, there's some information on there you can fill out, and we'll be in touch with you email-wise and let you know what we're doing in our classes and what's going on. And on the other side of that, you can make a prayer request to any one of the different areas that we do prayer in. So just take a look at it. It might be something you'd be interested in. Is there anybody here from another Unity today? Is there anybody here for the first time? Nobody's here for the first time. Okay. Cool. Well, you know that we're an all-inclusive community, and we enjoy the idea of diversity. We're living it every day anyway, so we might as well enjoy it and be here and open to understanding how to flow with everything that doesn't seem to be the same as we are. And as we do that, we become more and more peaceful. And it's from within that we create this peace that will ultimately heal the world of its conflicts, its fears, and its disease. You're going to enjoy this talk today by Syntysche.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity of Boulder. Those of you who are joining us here in person in the sanctuary, and those of you who are watching us online, we love having you with us every week, either way. So thank you very much. I'd like to let you know a few things that are coming up here at Unity of Boulder. First thing is this week, obviously Thursday is Thanksgiving, and we will be having our annual Joy Sing service. It'll be a 10 a.m. service. Everyone's invited to attend. Bring a friend or a family member that might be visiting you in town. And the service, this service heavily features our acclaimed Unity Choir, and it will be led by Jack's son, Shad, who was one of our ministers up to about a year ago. So he'll be coming back onto our stage. We're happy to have Shad Groverland back up here. And that is followed by our Thanksgiving Potluck. That's going to be led by our good friend Andy Lendeck over here. Come on up, Andy. We're supplying turkeys, gravy, mashed potatoes, but if you have a dish you'd like to bring to share, if you don't have a great place to do Thanksgiving this year, it's a wonderful chance to have community during Thanksgiving. I'll let Andy tell you a little bit more about that, and I'm assuming Uniteens?
Yeah.
All right.
You know, you guys have been hearing me for a couple of months now saying, send the kids, and I had this image of myself as a character in a Charles Dickens novel during the middle of the plague, where somebody would come down the street and say, throw out your dead, throw out your dead. And I want live children. But I was thinking about that Jack, I always hear something wise from him, and he used the word community. And that's what we are here, and that's what our children need as well. And the Uniteens, the ones that I love and love to work with, 11 to 14, probably the hardest ones to get here. So what I'm going to ask you to do, challenge you to do, is to get young families here. It's wonderful to see families bringing young children, and that particular demographic, for some reason, is really hard for us to, or at least it's hard for me to get these kids here, and I will not quit. I will not quit. It's taken me a little bit longer than I thought, but Uniteens is going to be a vibrant program, and these kids need it now more than ever. You know, there's a stigma associated with the word church, with the word religion, with the word God. But the spiritual life is so important for all of us, and especially for those that are just learning that they have wings and learning how they can spread them. They're not really children yet, they're not adults. We need them, they need us, and they need to feel the sense of community that we all feel here at Unity. So I'm asking you, I'm challenging you, invite young families to come here, families with kids, even once, so they can meet me, they can meet Mike, they can Syntysche, Jack, Norma, all of us that love you all so much. So now, that's the end of that commercial. Thanksgiving's going to be great. It's really just going to be such a good time. Some of my favorite Thanksgivings of my fairly long life have been here at Unity. Please do come. Please do help us volunteer. I will be here Wednesday at about noon. We'll be peeling potatoes, setting up the room, and just come and join us in this community. Thank you so much. Blessings to you all.
Thank you, Andy. And we also, our choir season is fully up and running. We are still accepting new members. Our next choir practice it's going to be this Tuesday, and we're obviously not going to have practice this Thursday, but ongoing after Thanksgiving, it's going to be every Tuesday and Thursday until Christmas. So please, if you've ever wanted to join a choir and see what it's like, please come check it out. All you have to do is show up on Tuesday at 6:30, or any Tuesday or Thursday following Thanksgiving at 6:30. Norma will put you right where you need to be in the choir, and we'd love to have you. All right, now I'd like to welcome out today's special music. I'd like to welcome out Marcy Baruch. She's going to be leading our music again today. With help, we're welcoming back a friend of Unity here. Nicole Denny Williams is back on our stage. Welcome back, Nicole.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning. Good morning. I woke up about 4 days ago, and the chorus of this song was playing in my whole being, and it occurred to me that I'd never listened to the verses before, so I went and looked it up, and I just started to weep, and this feeling of just absolute praise came over me, and all I wanted to do was sing, "God is all there is, glory, hallelujah, holy, holy, holy," and I kind of recommitted to practicing living that, like in every moment, just feeling that and really leaning into that. So it's good to be here with you. I'd love it if you, at any time, want to sing along. Please do. Okay. My wings were heavy, I could not fly, haunted by dreams that were meant to come true. Love was there, I could not see it, so the voice of salvation came shining through you, and you said, "God is all there is, God is all there will ever be, God is all there is, God is all there will ever be." In the sky of my mind was lightning and thunder. I never could trust it could finally be right. The truth in your eyes said, "Don't worry, don't wonder," and you sang me a song that shattered the lie, and you said, "God is all there is, God is all there will ever be, God is all there is, God is all there will ever be." And like the shepherd, you pulled me through when my heart was troubled. I didn't know what to do. Your compassion planted a seed in my life. Now the flowers in me, all the time I'm singing, cannot fly, haunted by dreams that were meant to come true. God is right there, we just have to see it. Let the voice of salvation come shining through you, and just sing, God is all there is. God is all there will ever be. God is all there is. God is all there will ever be. God is all there is. God is all there will ever
Thank you. Oh, wow. I made the PowerPoints for that song, so I was reading those words this week when she sent the song over, and I was like, wow, it's like perfect. It's always in synergy of what I was working on and deciding what I was going to be speaking about, and I just love that, you know, how connected we all are when we're on this path. We have this awareness, this intuition to what is the message. Hi, good to see you. So today, my talk title is Divine Love. And I was thinking about the idea of just heart-opening divine love. And what does that really mean, and how do we live in a state of divine love? And I'll get to why that came up for me, but when I was sitting down to write this talk, I started thinking about the offering statement that we say every Sunday, every class that we have, that says, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And I want to just be with it. You know, I've never really sat with that affirmation and how powerful it is to just take that affirmation into our being, and divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have. So first I, was thinking about divine love and what that actually means. And I found this beautiful definition that says, divine love holds an enormous power of attraction. It also is a balancing force that brings harmony inside us and to the other people around us. With nature and with God, source energy, divine love seeks no object to express itself. Divine love seeks no object to express itself. And so I was looking back and, contemplating a conversation that I'd had that was bringing up this idea for myself, and looking back on a class that I taught a few months ago on a book called The Undefended Self. And it's a very powerful book, and it touched me very much about 10 years ago when it came into my life. And it was really taking you back to face some of the challenges you've gone through in life and to really go back and heal it. And I didn't really re-pick it up when I decided I was going to do a book group around the book. I just remembered how impactful it was on my life. And then the day I was supposed to teach the class, I read the chapters I'd asked everybody to read. And I was like, what did I pick here? I was in a totally different state of mind at that time. I was in a lot of transition and trauma, and I don't want to do this kind of work anymore. It was just really like a visceral, oh my gosh, I have to do this for the next 6 weeks. It was like, and there are no mistakes. There was a lot to be gained by the experience. But that night, in our sharing as women. I'm watching each person going back in their life about family members or, bullies or friends and things that were like those first cuts in life and sharing about it. And the energy of the pain body was just growing and growing and growing. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, is this helping us? Or is this taking our spiritual power away? I mean, at some point, it's important to do trauma work, and it's good to have therapy and do the things that we need to do to heal stuff that's taking our happiness away, our healthfulness in mind away. But at some point, how do we live in a state of divine love and no longer give the power to the pain body that exists from the things in the past? Because what I realized is, while we were working this book, and each class, I was losing 2 to 3 people a week in email saying, this is just triggering me way too much. This book is triggering me way too much. And I would completely respond and understand and totally agree and say, I think there's a reason for this. There's something I was supposed to learn. And some people really enjoyed the book. And actually, some of them have gone on to go even deeper because this book is this big and we have 6 weeks. You really need almost a year with it. And it was like a time-stop moment as the people are dropping off that I don't want to learn from the pain of the past anymore. And I decided that before I had chosen this book for the group. And I realized that even though I had gone through that book 10 years ago, there are some things that it's okay to just give to Spirit and we don't have to visit it anymore. Right? It will still have an impact. It will still have a surge. Because I was having all the same surges 10 years later that I did 10 years ago when I did that book. So the question is it's not really a matter of whether we can heal the past. It's a matter of growing ourselves into a higher consciousness where it has no energy in our life anymore. We don't look upon it, so therefore it has no life force in our being. And that's really where I want to practice in my life, and that's really when you read about the 3D consciousness versus going into 5D consciousness, it's going into a state of living from the present, knowing that we are divine love, divinely connected to this greater power we call God, Source. And no matter what happened in the past, obviously, we all have many pain body stories that we can live in, and we can use it to, dictate things in our life and with family members and spouses and things like that to stay small so people placate to our stuff. But when we really want to be a masterful divine being, then we really do have to take to task on what we look upon. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive because I give. Divine love has nothing to do with your partner or your parents or your family members. Divine love is a love affair with Spirit between us. So nothing can be missing or fragmented. Divine love manifesting as one's life partner. The purpose of a life partner is to rejoice and to share life with and to talk to someone who you can depend on. This is said by the divine, is the only really dependable relationship, never changing. So when that longing is there, remember the divine could be related to yourself as a life partner and see the same divine in your life partner too. Both ways, making the divine as one's life partner, companionship. If you could make the divine as your life partner, your problem of loneliness will never come. You get more centered. Otherwise, you keep hanging on to your relationship, whomsoever you are having a relationship or companionship with. So when we make the divine love or the beloved our partner, then we're giving from this highest frequency of love. And nobody can give that to us. That's not something we get from other people. It comes from here. I remember when I was getting married, and I was talking to an older gentleman that went to this church, and he said, this is when I was young, this is my first marriage, he said, you never ask what they can give to you, but you rely on this source that's within you and always ask, what else can I give? And that's when you will feel loved. You don't feel loved by another person. The love that we feel is from this giving, because the glass is full, because the divine is expansive and connected and amazing, right? So I was meeting with a friend of mine / facilitator, and she and I were talking this week. And she asked me this question. This is what stimulated this talk. And she said, are you living here and now with an open heart? Are you living here and now with an open heart? And my first reaction was like, well, yeah. You know, we tend to just go, well, yeah, you know. But then when I really sat with it, I felt a lot of sorrow come into my being and realized that in some areas of my life, I'm living with an open heart. In some areas of my life, I'm living with a very guarded heart. And so it's not to not be with what the heart is feeling, right? But it's not allowing ourselves to look at the pain body and just tell ourselves the story again of why that guard is there. The guard needs to be taken down and given to the beloved, right? That pain body of us looking at the story then just keeps the guard up. How do we get to an expanded, open heart? Regardless of what's happening in this world, regardless of what's happening in your marriage or in your work. Because when you can live in an open heart, nothing can hurt you, but many of us are afraid to live with an open heart. Who feels safe to live with an open heart in every area of your life? Can you get your hands up higher, because I have a lot of light in my eyes? Okay. Who has trepidation to live and completely, totally live with an open heart? So that's actually pretty good. I mean, I'd say 25% of you are, if you feel safe to live with an open heart, and 75% are like, eh. And I guess I was with the second group there. And so I've had to be in the heart, working through the many layers of not the stories, but the blocks. What the blocks. I'm the one that keeps putting that there. That's a subconscious thing that's saying there's something to be afraid of, that this divine isn't completely and totally in charge through the heart. Because that total faith in it will protect us, right? So it's really building that well of that divine companionship. There's a clairvoyant named Lee Harris who said this in a video that was shared a few weeks ago. How do you rise above, dig deep, and access the light and power of your soul amid the human dramas, trials, and tribulations of the world? How do you rise above, dig deep, and access the light and power of your soul? You see, those of all of us who are in the front lines of this planetary ascension right now, which is being talked about a lot, and it's been for the last month, and it's going to be for many months to come, we're beginning to realize that life is no longer as it was, right? And there's a change. Reality is no longer what it seemed to be. In case you haven't realized it, the world we know will probably never be the same as we knew it before. But who's also not to say that it can't be so much more beautiful, so much more expansive and heartfelt by all of the consciousness and the people that are working on the frequency for that which they're bringing into their children's lives, their spouses' lives, their parents' lives, their work's lives, right? So although it's not something you're likely to hear about, all these changes on our nightly news, there is much talk in our spiritual communities regarding the upgrade we as human collective are going through. And some are calling it from 3D to 5D, some are calling it awakening, some are calling it the golden age. All these things have been named in the past when big changes happen. But the human perspective is rapidly changing, month to month, year to year. For those people who are energetically in tune with this great shift, one of the many symptoms of ascension involves being able to access more of our extrasensory perceptions. right? So who's noticing that you're more intuitive? You're getting more intuitive hits. Who's feeling like when you're around people, you can feel what they're actually feeling before they say it? Who's feeling a palpable connection with this greater love? So then you're in the ascension process, right? And the more we believe and live in that truth, the more we're expanding and we're heightening our consciousness without even realizing it, right? It's just a matter of recognizing this is happening and this ascension process is going to happen. So one extrasensory perception that becomes almost a staple part of our relationship with reality as we begin to reside mostly in the fifth dimension, as we continue to mature in our consciousness, we begin to see that intuition is no longer some random light bulb moment that happens rarely, but very much becomes a way of life. Intuition actually becomes our primary guidance system. So he goes on to talk about how he has spirit guides that are saying that many of us we're kind of standing on a fence and we're tapping our toe on this intuitive and this like immersion and ascension, and then yet we still hang out with the friendships that no longer serve and speak to the lower nature and speak to the pain body, speak to the ills, speaks to the lack of the money, and we get around that and we think that we can keep our vibration high while we're around it. And ascended people can't. When you're in a high frequency, those lower natures don't affect you. But if you're, dipping still and you're still working on that higher frequency, you have to really look at what you're surrounding yourself in and with, right? You will find during this time that people will fall away, that no longer are part of that frequency, that higher vibration, because this universe is calling for the higher vibration. Doesn't mean they're going to die or they're going to leave this planet, but they're simply not for your ascension process, because you are needed and being called for this greater picture for our planet and for this world. And they'll meet you at some point, but it's not your responsibility. What your responsibility is to get to this higher frequency and gather and gather and gather with the higher frequencies to move into this ascension, to make a difference for everyone who's ready to move there. And all the people that fall away, they will find their way, but to not lower your nature to make them feel okay. Let them keep their baggage where it is, and until they're ready to face their stuff like you've already faced yourself, to be here. It's not a mean thing, it's a love thing. It's a divine love thing to allow yourself to love yourself enough to take care of yourself. So I felt inspired to reflect on an experience in my past that grew my heart and made an impact in my life. And I've been doing that because I'm in this like midlife reflection. And there's other names for it, but I find that that's a more positive one to use. And looking upon the grace and the beauty of my life, looking at the moments that spiritual interventions put me on the right path, instead of looking at the ones that cut and hurt and made me feel less than. So I went to a high school my junior year. I went to public school for 1 year in high school, and I didn't do well there at all. I didn't know it at the time, but I was extremely empathic, and being in a massive school with 3,000 kids and the speed and the pace, I was homeschooled, and then I was in Waldorf, which is very slow-paced and very just beautiful and very spiritual. I got lost, and I was drowning at Boulder High School. And I came to my parents and I said, I'm just going to drop out. I can't do this anymore. This is just not a fit. And they're like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to get a job and I'm going to pay to go to September School, which is a private school. And they're like, oh, you actually still want to stay in school? Because they're perfectly willing to pay for it. I didn't realize that they were, but I was like, I'm out of here. I can't do this anymore. And one of the classes that was a mandatory class for the school was, first of all, something called a group, which is basically a counseling class that you sat within your peers, and every day you had to be in there an hour, which was super helpful. And the other class that was life-changing was something called service learning. Everybody in that school had to do this class. And so I remember that the first few classes, when I started the service learning class, was like a field trip out into Boulder. Then we visited like state-run child care places for single teenage mothers. We visited, we could work on open space trails and like build trails or, do things for the community. We could clean up trash on highways. And then the last stop we did was stop at a state-funded nursing home. And while we were there, it was probably the most dismal, energied place I'd ever been in, and it just felt like a dark, cold brick hospital. And all of these people that didn't look happy, and there was just kind of a sadness in this building. And we ended up meeting these two gentlemen in their room that happened to be best friends since they were 4 years old, and now they're like 90-something, and they were in the same room. Here they'd been married and had kids and everything, and here's like these two like baseball buddies, and the way they hung out. And there was this observation on my part about how all of a sudden they became like 7-year-olds. Like the age left, like I saw their souls. It was just like the first time I really saw that there was some sort of abilities that I didn't put together till I look back on it now. And the love between these two men was just really like palpable. And while we were visiting with them and they were both talking everything, something physically happened to one of those guys, and all of a sudden the nurses were rushing to do something to save his life, and we got rushed out of the room. And it so shocked my being, I just was hysterically crying in the outside of the room with the whole class, and the rest of them all seemed fine, and it was like whatever. So the next day I had to write a paper of what I decided I was going to do my service in, because it was time for me to start being out in the field and do this process. And I did a whole paper on how I wanted to work with the babies and the state-run place for the teenage moms. I felt like I could give nurturing to these children, and I was always attracted to little babies and stuff. And I handed it in, and my teacher, Dave, said, "No, you're not going to go work with the babies." He said, "That reaction that you had at that nursing home, there's something in that for you. So I don't usually do this, but I'm listening to the call of your soul. You need to go work in that nursing home." So I did. And when I first showed up there, they basically had me be the games director for these people that are all like 85 to like 100 years old. And the joke was on me. Like when I look back now, they're like taking advantage of this 17-year-old young girl that like doesn't know how to say no or anything. So I'm doing things like bowling with 7 people in wheelchairs and wheeling the chair and running down to put the pins up and then running back to get the ball, and then they get the ball and I have to put a pin up. And I mean by the end of like 3 hours, it was like I'd leave there and I was so exhausted. It was beyond. But I started to realize that I had this ability to make people laugh, like really laugh. Like this dismal, energied place was lit up with joy when we were playing these games. And I did nails and I did all sorts of stuff with them. And I was always so shocked by the women, and they're all, collaborating, and they're talking just like teenagers. They're talking about sex, they're talking about this, they're talking about that. And it was like, wow, I guess we are always forever 18. It was just an enlightening experience. So this one day I came in and I was early and I was walking by this room, and this woman called me in to go into her room, and I went in and I recognized her from my games group. And she said, "I need my oxygen tank changed." And I said, I'm not a nurse. Let me get you a nurse. She says, "No, just sit down with me." And so I sat down with her and we're just chatting, and this is one of the ones that really was pretty dismal, but she would kind of light up when we were playing the games, but she didn't look like a very happy person. And a nurse finally comes in and wants to change the oxygen. She goes, "No, I want her to be my nurse." She's being really like, she wants me to be hers. And she goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "My name is Syntysche." And cognitively, she did not seem completely there. And her whole being like looked at me and went, "Are you Syntysche Groverland?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I'm Mrs. So-and-so. It was my first grade teacher." And I've told this story before, but I have a different perspective on it now. And my heart sunk, because in first grade, I had an eyesight issue, and I could not learn how to read. It was like they were doing all these weird ways to teach us how to read, and I wasn't learning how to read, and I don't know if I was acting out. I don't know what was going on, but she was constantly throwing me in the hallway and throwing books at me to sit out there, like for hours. I was just sitting in this hallway. I became really good friends with the janitor that cleaned the the food area, and he'd be like, "What did you do now, Syntysche?" Like, it was always so sweet. Like, God, what did you get yourself into? I'm like, I don't know. At some point, she took me to the kindergarten class and just put books in my hand to read that I couldn't read. So she was trying to do humiliation to see if it would work. And at that time, that was the class of my neighbor best friend. So there was a lot of cuts from that year. And so here I'm sitting with her, and I'm recognizing the pain body and the experience that I had with her. And here is this fragile woman that is looking at me with such love. And she goes, "Well, you were really precocious." She doesn't see that I'm remembering all of these really kind of abusive, mentally abusive things that I went through. "You're a precocious child." I was like, okay, all right. But from then on, she and I became friends. And that full circle experience from this like childhood cut that basically left me with an affirmation that there was something wrong with me, or I wasn't smart. It played out all sorts of affirmations, and it created rebelliousness in school for many years after that. So in these moments, you realize, no, where are my slides? Okay, I guess I don't have this one. In Romans, we have different gifts according to the grace given us. If one's gift is prophecy, let them use it in proportion to their faith. If it is serving, let her serve. If it is teaching, let them teach. If it is encouraging, let them encourage. If it is in giving, let them give generously. If it is in leading, let them lead with diligence. If it is showing mercy, let them do it cheerfully. Within every soul, there is a giving nature. There is a gift that's within all of us. And working with these elderly people and being the games director twice a week, and the feeling of love that I experienced in that changed me forever. I have always wanted to be able to give back to whatever community, whatever dance program I'm involved with. I always want to be there to set up or be a lighting person to help with the process of making freedom for the leadership to have a chance to be able to really do what they need to do, right? So while I'm taking care of those people, those nurses are able to clean those rooms. They were able to do the things that they needed to do while I'm entertaining them, and they're having a great time. And not only that, now they're getting good mood older folks that they're dealing with, right? So when we're part of this, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. That giving piece is really, really, really important. I think mothers and fathers really get that, because giving to the children is before ourselves. My kids are both teenagers right now, and I'll recognize that, every day it's a crisis because they can't find anything to wear. I've done all the laundry, so I know where it's all, folded, even though they should be doing it themselves. Either way, I find the outfits, I get them going, and then I get to the church and I'm like, what the hell am I wearing today? Because, high school and middle school is much more important than my career, right? They have to be cool and they have to keep up. But that feels good to be in service of our children. It feels good to be in service for something that is beyond our own dictates and demands of what we need in this world. One of the greatest things we can do when we're not feeling divine love or feel like we can move into an open heart is to actually be swept away by service. Some of the greatest miracles that I've heard in people's lives when they have witnessed to me are the things that have come into their life when they finally got out of themselves, out of their intellect, out of the nervousness, out of the stress, out of the guilt, out of all the things we are running through our beings. when we're too obsessed with trying to change something and we don't know how to do it. When we get out of ourselves and we become this divine love, that wisdom comes, the answers, the call of our heart, the desire of the unfoldment of that which we're desiring. And if it's not what we are exactly desiring, it'll be something better. Steve, I can't see the clock. Can you move your feet just a touch? Thank you. Thank you. So, there's two ways I could have looked back on that story with my teacher, and I'm sure her family lives in this town, so I'm not saying her name. So, to be with the idea that I'm looking back, not everybody knows what to do at the right time. People make mistakes. We have to really get to that. If you, like they say, if you are seeing the logjam in somebody else's eye, but you're not seeing the speck in your own, this is a very big problem. I know a lot of people that do that. They're not in my life anymore, but I do know people that live from that projection. So there's two ways for me to look at the story. Limitation asks, why would any teacher want to break the spirit of a little girl? Or another way to look at it, things always come full circle for me. I learned about forgiveness, the fragility of life, and found I could still love someone who trespassed against me. It also built in me a passion to show up to every situation and give my best foot forward, not knowing what anyone is going through in their life. I want to help people, and I don't want to hurt people. So I got that contrast of deep empathy of what that cut feels like because I lived it. But I'm positive that person didn't want to maliciously hurt me. She had 30 kids. From, other people that I've met, they've said I was pretty obnoxious in first grade. I wasn't, there's no way, but, So ultimately, let's see if I can get to any of the slides that I'd like to go through here. I don't know where I was when I did these PowerPoints, okay. Ultimately, we are all walking each other home to spirit. And we can decide to be walking home back to spirit in a positive way, or we can keep letting the difficult be the way that keeps having to adjust us. We can keep going to the pain body, and then we have to get to the light. Pain body and get to the light. But that's a choice. Because once you decide to be looking upon building this higher vibration, living with an open heart, and visiting the heart, period. How often are you visiting your heart and really being with the source and center of all your knowing, all your longing, all your being? Your soul's everything is right there. Meditating and being in a state of opening your heart and trusting that. And watch the unfoldment. Watch people around you when you're living from that state. They might start going into their pain body or their low nature, complaining, You'll watch them adjust themselves. Because they vibrationally don't want to embarrass themselves because they're like, oh. And they'll work and they'll adjust to move there. And if not, they'll fall away. But that takes intention. That takes a choice. Do I want to become the ascension process? Do I want to ascend to this greater, intuitive, knowing, loving being that you already know you are, but you keep believing in the world to fix your problems? So I want to take you into meditation And just get comfortable, and if you can, put your 2 feet on the ground. So most importantly, I just want you to reflect on what stood out to you today about talking about opening and living within an open heart. Because that is where your soul is speaking with you. Are you listening? When you can connect with this resonance of this depth of your being and make your focus to stay there and allow your power to be in the midst of your being, you will see that there are talents, breakthroughs, relationships that are unleashing their potential through you in your giving and in your receiving because of your giving. In the state of your open heart, you have access to the all-knowing, omnipresent God that will improve your health, will improve your work, will improve your mood, and as we grow into this open heart, so does our outer dynamics. Without us having to look at the difficulty that got us to this point in these areas. Look at the people in your life right now. Yoga instructors, dance teachers, bosses, best friends. Do you feel safe to live with an open heart around these people? Your parents, your siblings, your children. Can you live with an open heart regardless of the dynamics of all of these members in your life? When we realize that there are people, situations, and circumstances that are adding to the chaos and the confusion of this world, it's okay to have deep compassion and empathy for their inner turmoil. But if you want to rise into the development that you already are, can you be around their lower residents when you're in the higher frequencies? The 5D consciousness lives in the presence. It doesn't live in the past, and doesn't live in planning for the future. The awakening, the ascension, it all comes from a whole being, a whole felt, harmonizing, aligned heart. And allow to see that light from your heart just to blow out and start to surround you with colors, protecting your entire being, so that when you're walking into a situation, that light is preceding you and affecting and heightening the vibration of this world wherever you step in. Because you are a child of God. Nothing can hurt you, make you afraid, or make you sick, because within you is this vast, powerful, healing intelligence that knows the sacred healing needs of every individual that walks this human life. You are holy. You are loved. You are needed. And the universe is grateful for everything. And so we thank you, God, for reminding us of the power that lives within our heart and our mind. And to this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now.
Well, it's Thanksgiving week, and while we have set aside a day to be thankful for all that we have, we should really expand upon that. Set aside, some days, some weeks, some months, and at some point maybe you'll just set aside the limited side of living and live in gratitude every day. This beautiful talk today, so insightful, so necessary for all of us today, wherever we are. So the only way it can get out there is if we carry it with us, if we live that gratitude ourselves. And so we have the opportunity to take that out and be part of healing the consciousness of the world. So with that in mind, let's bring into our hands, if you want to make a physical donation today, or you want to make a donation in the lobby in the tip jar, credit card, or if you want to make a donation in one way of these particular fashions, just bring to mind that financial gift you'd like to make to keep this truth alive through Unity of Boulder. And let's bless this financial gift with this affirmative prayer. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is. We have some more beautiful music coming our way. Everybody's lined up. Let's just get in touch.
drawn by the pull of love. Oh, we are walking each other home, and we're drawn by the pull of love. We are walking each other home, and we're drawn by the pull of
You guys are amazing. I love you. Thank you. Amazing.
Before we do anything else, Andy, do you have a handle on all the food that we need, or do we need more food?
Not yet. We are just starting to collect food, and we can never have enough. Because as much food as we have, we will draw more people. So if you have turkeys, potatoes, gravy, mixed things like that, please do come and see me or see Heather, and we'll take all donations. The food will not go to waste, and there's this cycle here. So bring food, bring people.
So it's actually a potluck, but if you don't have anything, come anyway.
Absolutely.
And if you know someone that's alone, needs a place to have fellowship and friendship and food, send them here at noon on Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. You know, there's so many shut-ins. There's people who are just alone, who may be embarrassed. Please send them our way.
Right.
And join our community here.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So that's it. Yeah, if you got food, you want to donate, bring it over. We'll find a way to cook it and get it out there. If you want to show up, just bring a potluck of some kind, your favorite dish, a salad, a dessert. We'll be glad to have you. Everybody will be sharing it. It's always one of the big celebrations we have. And on Thursday, Thanksgiving, at 10 a.m., we have our Thanksgiving joicing and, witnessing. And we were also going to have a special treat because we have the CEO, president of Unity Worldwide, will be here to just give a very brief talk on unity and gratitude. So it's going to be a great sharing at 10 o'clock. Show up, bring your friends. We love to have them. And that's what's going to happen here on Thanksgiving.
We have prayer partners available to you. If you have, you want to pray with somebody, just stay seated in your seat. And our beautiful prayer partners with the white sashes will come and find you and take you to our meditation room. And we have lots of ways to serve the center. We're heading into Christmas time, and there's lots of services that we put on. And so if you'd like to start giving back of your time, we could really use that help. So you can find out anything that we need help with from Heather today in the bookstore.
One final thing. You, from now till Thanksgiving Day, you may not pass any homeless person without at least giving him $1. You can't pass. If you happen to pass because the traffic is such, go around the block. If you see a homeless person, you've got to give him something from now till Thanksgiving. That's what's going on. Let's have
All
our
right.
closing.
Sing with us. I release.
And I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God.
Yeah.
So it is. We'll see you Thursday or next Sunday.
We have some goodies in Fellowship Hall. If you want to stop in and chat, we have some treats over there. Stop in and say hello to your friends. Hey.